I want to talk about the origins of this idea that classical music can lead to heightened intelligence or language development. This came from a study that took place in the 90s called the Mozart effect. And the study was conducted on college students, and they were taking IQ tests while listening to a Mozart sonata. The results were that there was a temporary increase in their IQ as they listened to this Mozart sonata. It was temporary, and years later, the test was attempted to be replicated over a dozen times, and those results never panned out the same exact way. Now, from this isolated skill set that was tested during the Mozart effect study, there was an explosion of information that went out that trickled all the way down to infancy and toddlers, and even to babies in utero. That if you listen to classical music, it got spread beyond the Mozart sonata now to classical music as a whole. It got taken from isolated skill on with students of college age to now this is something beneficial to babies. This happens because as parents of young children, we are a huge market that is willing to spend money on things. And particularly if people tell us that something is going to give our children an edge, then we are willing to hear it. One of the things, let me just end that with saying that the Mozart effect has been largely debunked. All of the things that trickled down to infancy and toddlerhood and babies in utero all stemmed from that study, and none of it was honest because this has never been actually studied on infants, on toddlers, on children in general. The test was only conducted with college students. One of the issues that I want to raise with this is something that I started off saying is about the ethnocentrism of this concept. To imagine that the classical music of the elite in Europe is associated with higher intelligence shows an extreme bias and something that I think is kind of fused in the psychology of our country and probably worldwide, that things that derive from Europe in so many ways are better and are elevated or more refined, and in fact can even make you smarter. And I do take issue with that with ideology, and I want to say this as a European classically trained clarinetist. I love classical music, but really had to think hard about this concept that I thought was true at some point because I had heard about it, and had to think about, if I had heard a study that West African drumming led to higher intelligence, or if the country had heard that, how many of us would believe that immediately? If we had heard that Indian tabla music was associated with higher intelligence, would we believe that? If we heard that taiko drumming would be, if we listened to that, would lead to higher intelligence, I don't think that it would have been as broadly accepted and such a huge moneymaker in our society. People still believe this. And so anytime you hear a particular genre or time period being elevated, you have to know that there is something awry. There is something that you should be questioning about the ethnocentrism that statements like that are coming from. And to just buyer beware. If anything, I started this saying that music is a reflection of culture and time period. And if someone says that one of those things is better, it's the same as saying that one language is better than another, that one type of cuisine is better than another, that one year is better than another, measured by what? So no, it is not more important that your child listens to classical music. If you love classical music and want to expose your child to that genre, by all means do. And again, you can bring out those same music skills that I mentioned in previous questions. But you can do that through any genre of music, and different genres of music are just opening different pathways in your child's brain the same way that learning different languages does. All genres are important. And it just has to do with your own personal preference and what you decide to elevate in your own home, or what you have a personal preference for. I listen to a wide variety of music with my daughter, but there are some genres that don't tickle my fancy, so they're not heard in our home, because my focus really is the music skills that I can pull out of each genre, and as many genres as I can handle in my home are the ones that I'm going to expose my child to.